The inner critic versus the inner coach. I'm excited about this lesson, y'all. So, we all have that voice inside our heads, the one that, critiques our every move and highlights our failures and tells us we're not good enough. That's your inner critic. And it thrives in self-doubt and perfectionism and fear. But here's the thing, there's also another voice inside us, one that we often ignore, and that is our inner coach. This voice is supportive and growth oriented and encourages resilience rather than shame. The key to overcoming self sabotage isn't about silencing our inner critic completely. That's unrealistic, right? But rather turning up the volume on our inner coach so that it becomes the dominant voice in our minds. So today we are going to talk about why the inner critic exists. And hint, hint, it's because it's trying to protect you, but in a harsh way that's unhelpful. We're also going to talk about how to identify when it's running the show, when it's creating these thought patterns and self-talk and emotional cues. We're also going to talk about how to strengthen the inner coach and reframe some self-doubt. So first, let's touch back on the inner critic and how the inner critic holds you back. So your inner critic is fueled by fear, fear of failure, rejection, not being good enough. It's that voice that often sounds like, you're not talented enough for this role, or you always mess up in auditions, or why even try? You'll just embarrass yourself, or other actors are better than you. You don't belong. For Emily, the inner critic is the loudest after her auditions. If she doesn't book the role, it's telling her that she's failing, that she's not cut out for acting, or that she should just get a normal job. This causes her to spiral into some self-doubt and avoid future opportunities because she doesn't want to feel that disappointed again. That voice creates self-sabotage because instead of taking constructive action, it convinces Emily to retreat. She procrastinates, she skips auditions, or she stops networking, things that would actually help her to succeed. Now let's talk about the inner coach, the voice that is of growth and of encouragement. The inner coach is that part of you that believes in your potential. It doesn't ignore your challenges, but responds to them with support instead of shame. So instead of saying, you're not talented enough, the inner coach says, every actor improves with experience. Let's just focus on what you learned from that audition. Instead of, why even try? You'll just fail. It says, success isn't about failing. It's about how you show up after a setback. For Emily, their inner coach shifts the narrative after an audition. So instead of obsessing over the mistakes she made, she focuses on what she did well. Instead of seeing rejection as a failure, she views it as redirection. Instead of self-isolating, she reaches out to her acting community for support. When Emily actively listens to her inner coach, she keeps going despite the obstacles. And that perseverance is what leads to real success. So, how do we rewire our self-talk and strengthen that inner coach? Here's some techniques to help you amplify the inner coach and quiet the inner critic. So, first off, let's name our inner critic. Let's call it out. When you hear some self-doubt creeping in, personify it. Give it a name, something ridiculous if you want. This creates distance between you and your thoughts. Emily names her inner critic Judgy Jane. Whenever Jane starts whispering negative thoughts, Emily catches herself and says, oh, great, Jane's back. Got it. Thanks for your opinion, Jane. But I'm going to listen to someone who's more helpful. You can also flip the script. When you hear that inner critic saying something negative, pause and rewrite the thought as if your best friend was struggling with it. So your critic says, you're not good enough for this industry. Your inner coach says, you're still growing and every experience makes you better. Your critic says, you'll never be successful. Your coach says, success is built over time. Your consistency matters more than overnight wins. You can also create a confidence ritual. So before an audition or a big moment, do something that puts you in a confidence mindset. For Emily, this means she does a power pose in front of the mirror, or she listens to a really empowering song, or she's speaking a mantra. I'm prepared. I am capable. I am enough. Over time, strengthening the inner coach becomes second nature and self-sabotage loses its grip. So here's some final thoughts. You choose who you listen to. At the end of the day, you choose who you listen to. Your inner critic will always exist, but it doesn't have to be in charge. The more you practice self-compassionate self-talk, the more natural it becomes. For Emily, learning to amplify her inner coach has helped her audition with confidence, audition with resilience, and audition with excitement and joy rather than fear. So when you shift your inner dialogue, you shift your results. Next time you hear your inner critic, pause, reframe, and choose to listen to that inner coach instead. Now, here's something I'm really excited for you guys. There is a self-compassion letter to future you below. What I want you to do is write a heartfelt letter of encouragement and kindness to yourself. And this letter will serve as a reminder of your strength. And we're going to open it again at the end of this challenge. But I want you to keep this letter in a safe place. Anytime that inner critic becomes too loud, read your letter to yourself. That's such a great tool. If you're going to skip an activity, don't skip this one.